Hey guys, welcome back to Paradise. So if you are currently hauling a truck camper around with you or hauling any weight in the back of your truck or towing anything, you're probably going to be wanting to look at something to help support that weight on the truck. So your truck's going to be weighted down a lot more, so therefore your bump stops are going to be a little bit lower, and you're going to want to help support that and keep it more level. So three of the main things that a lot of people with truck campers or anybody that tows a camper kind of go to are helper springs, Sumo springs, or Timbrens. So those are the three I'm going to talk about today and tell you what the differences are and kind of what my experiences with each of them have been. So currently I have the Pro Series Hellwig helper springs on our Ford F-150. In my last vehicle, we had a 2015 Chevy Silverado, and I had Sumo springs on that, and I've known a lot of different people that have had Timbrens, so I know a little bit about each of them and how they work. So first off, we'll just start with the Hellwig helper springs. And pretty much what is it? So the helper springs are literally just another leaf spring on top of your stock leaf springs. Pretty much it's just going to be attached to your leaf spring, and it's just going to help support more weight on top of it. The Pro Series ones that I have today are just actually two leaf springs, so it's an actual bonus on top of the extra one. So this one holds up to about 2,500 pounds extra, and that should level that, or so it's able to level that amount of weight. So the Sumo springs that I had on my Silverado, that and Timbrens together, they're pretty much kind of about the same thing. They literally just replace the bump stop that is stock on your vehicle. So you'll take off your bump stop and you will replace it with the either Timbren or the Sumo spring. They're both about the same size. They have different varieties usually if you want a different height or anything, but most of them are probably about 5-6 inches tall, and your regular bump stop is probably only maybe 3 inches at the most. So you're going to be gaining a little extra room, so therefore if you hit a bump, it's actually going to contact the axle a lot sooner, so your bumping will be a lot less rough. So both of the Timbrens and the Sumos can hold a lot of weight. I think they're probably around like 6,000-7,000 pounds they're able to withstand, so it's a lot more than the helper springs, but the helper springs are more just to kind of level the load and not really do anything with the bump stop. So you can still kind of bottom out with the helper springs, and the Sumo springs and the Timbrens are more to cushion the blow. So now that you know a little bit about all three of them, what about installation? So the helper springs that I have here, they took a little bit of time. I put them on by hand. I don't have any power tools, so it took probably about a little over an hour to do. I had to take the camper off and all that stuff, and then pretty much they're two leaf springs that you sit on top of your pre-existing leaf springs, and then you have 4 U-bolts that attach underneath to your prior leaf springs that are attached to your truck. And then you bolt those down, and they have locking nuts on them, so it takes a little while to get those on if you're doing it by hand. If you have power tools, again, it'll probably take you maybe less than a half an hour to do. So now with Sumo springs and Timbrens, they're pretty simple. All you're going to do is unbolt the one bolt that attaches your stock bump stop, take that off, and then you're going to replace it with either the Sumo spring or the Timbren. Literally just one bolt up in the center. The Timbrens are actually hollow, so it's just a chunk of rubber, and that's pretty much what turns into your bump stop, while the Sumo spring is more just a solid synthetic conglomerate of something, but it pretty much turns into kind of a sponge-like spring. So that one was a little different. The only thing I didn't like about the Sumo spring is you have to use Loctite to pretty much screw it up into, so you're going to take the pre-existing bump stop off, and then you're going to hook up a bracket into that spot. Then you're going to take pretty much Loctite and you put it on the inside. There's a nut inside of the Sumo spring, and you're going to screw it up onto it. So pretty much once you put it on, you cannot take it off. So that's the only thing that I didn't like about the Sumo springs. The Timbrens, it's just one bolt on, and then if you want to take it off, you just take the one bolt off, and then you put your pre-existing one back on if you're going to sell it. So now price-wise, they're all kind of within the same area here. So the Pro Series helper springs that I have, they retail for about $265. That's for the Pro Series, so they do have just like original series that I think does about 2,000 pounds, and that's usually about 165, 170, somewhere around there on Hellwig's website. The Timbrens and the Sumo springs are both kind of around about 220, 225, somewhere in that range. So they're all kind of about on the same playing field. So after all that, which one do I like the best? Well, it's actually tough to decide. If you're going to keep weight on your vehicle all the time, I would probably just suggest to go with the helper springs because they're always going to be engaged and they're always going to be helping level the vehicle. The Timbrens and the Sumos are pretty much going to help if you have weight on it, but then it can still bounce up and down to the point where it's still engaging all the time, but it's really not helping level the truck. So it depends on if you're looking at trying to level the truck, you'd go with the helper springs. If you're looking at worrying about bouncing or anything like that, like if you're towing something heavy and you want to not have to deal with the sag so much, the Sumo springs will help once the weight is on, but once the weight's off, it's really not going to do anything for you. So it's kind of a good thing if you just wanted to put the weight on for if you want to have the weight on just for a little bit and then you'll be done, and then you can just go back to kind of having a city truck. It has no effect on your everyday driving once the weight is off the vehicle. So there you have it, guys. Hopefully that answers some of your questions on the helper spring, Sumo spring, Timbrens questions here. If you have any more that I didn't answer, make sure to leave them in the comments below. Otherwise, if you have any questions on truck camping or living simple or minimalism or traveling or anything like that, make sure to let us know. Otherwise, we'll see you guys next time.